are the Yoruba people? What role did Ife play in the founding of the Yoruba? Hi, welcome to the Sankofa Pan-African series. Please click on your subscription and notification buttons if you've not yet done so. That's the way you can sustain us. Now, our focus today is Ife civilization. However, it is impossible to attempt the discussion of the history of Ife without first examining who and how the ethnic group known as the Yoruba came to be constituted. In Africa, the Yoruba people can be predominantly found in West Africa. The area which they occupy in West Africa spans the modern day countries of Nigeria, Togo, and Benin. Due to this transatlantic slave trade, however, Yoruba people from Nigeria and Benin were forcibly transported to the Americas as slaves. The Americas and the Caribbean as slaves. So some groups of such people were able to retain their religion and culture, which have since been spread across many borders and can be found thriving in places like Trinidad, Cuba, St. Lucia, Brazil, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, to name just a few. Historical evidence points to the fact that as of the 7th century BC, the peoples who are now known as the Yoruba were not initially known by that name or any other single group name. Though they shared a common culture, ethnicity, and close variants of the same language. By the 8th century AD, Ile Ife was already a powerful kingdom, one of the earliest in Africa south of the Sahara. Almost all Yoruba groups trace their origin to princes of Ile Ife. As such, Ife continues to be the cultural and spiritual homeland of all Yoruba people. Archaeologically, the settlement of Ife has been dated to the 4th century BC. There is also evidence of urban structures pointing to substantial settlements appearing around the 12th and 14th centuries AD. All the kings, or Oni, the kings of Ife, actually known as Oni of Ife, claim direct descendant from Oduduwa. The primordial history of the group, now known as Yoruba, proves difficult to piece together because it is based largely on oral traditions and legends. Some of these legends are so interesting that I can't resist sharing some with you. Let me start with my favorite. It is believed that Oludmare, or the supreme god, also known as Olorun, ordered a deity called Obatala to create the earth. But on Obatala's way to create the earth, he discovered palm wine, that deliciously intoxicating nectar of the palm tree. Obatala enjoyed this first taste of palm wine and became intoxicated. Therefore, his younger brother, Oduduwa, who was sent along with him, took over the 3 items of creation which Oludmare had given Obatala from him. Oduduwa then climbed down from the heavens on a chain and threw a handful of earth on the ocean, because the earth was all water at the time. Next, he put a cockerel on the land, which was created, after he poured the sand on the ocean, so that the cockerel would spread the earth, thus creating the land on which Ile Ife would be built. As the creator of the earth, Oduduwa became the first divine king or Oni of Ife, while Obatala is believed to have created the first human beings out of clay. The name Ife in Yoruba has been translated by some to mean expansion. Expansion. Ile Ife therefore refers to the myth of origin, meaning the land of expansion. Like I explained, the history of how Ile Ife grew into a great civilization is a complex one because it is so deeply steeped in rich mythology. According to another myth, which also seems to be favored by most Yoruba people, is that the widespread ethnic group who are now known as the Yoruba are all descendants of the lineage of Lamurudu. They believe that Ife was founded by Oduduwa, who was the son of Lamurudu. He is believed to have migrated. Oduduwa is believed to have migrated from a place which is sometimes located somewhere around Egypt, and which some have also even located as far away as somewhere in the Middle East. This narrative of a immigrant founding lineage in Ile Ife was very prominent in the 20th century. And then, contrary to this perspective, other scholars have argued that while Oduduwa migrated from an as yet to be identified place, he and his entourage met a pre-existing group already living in Ile Ife. As such, according to Akinjogmi, Oduduwa met with strong opposition and had to struggle with the pre-existing group for supremacy. It is believed that through a battle with the pre-existing group, Oduduwa and his entourage gained control of Ile Ife's economic and political institutions. He then became the founder of the first Ile Ife dynasty. It is important to note that the recurring point in these scholars' arguments is the constant reference to Ile Ife as a cradle of Yoruba origin and the spiritual birthplace of all the Yoruba. Ile Ife has thus been regarded as the oldest existing dynasty in Yoruba land. And according to Adediran, it is significant as a symbol of political and traditional authority in the history of the Yoruba. Oduduwa is linked to the emergence of a centralized political system in Ile Ife. This became a central political system in the area now known as Yoruba land and remained thus until the 1900s. Ile Ife was not just the cradle for political evolution in Yoruba land. There are other aspects in Yoruba history like economics, religious, and social institutions pioneered by the city-state of Ife. Unfortunately, we still know little about how the early Oni of Ife exercised power or how their territory was administered or precisely when the dynasty started. What we do know is that the landscape out of which Ife and other Yoruba groups like the Oyo and even the Edo, who are closely related to the Yorubas, emerged, consisted of a mixture of tropical forests and savanna land with very fertile soil and a favorable amount of rainfall. Now, this rich landscape gave rise to the success and wealth of Ife Kingdom because it enhanced the ability to provide food with very little effort. This meant that labor then could be directed into creating great works of art, some of which were used for ritual and religious purposes, as well as the celebration of royalty. As such, over time, the Ife produced a wide range of objects made out of bronze, brass, copper, wood, ceramic, and ivory. By the 1300s, sculptural tradition in terracotta, art, bronze, copper, brass became even more refined under the reign of Obalufun II, Anoni, who was regarded as the deity of brass, brass casting, weaving, and regalia. The religious dimension of Ile Ife was what formed the basis for gods and deities of a Yoruba land. According to Adediran, religious cults were components that provided checks and balances to the political system. Oludmare, another historian, also describes Ile Ife as home to over 201 gods, or the city of 201 gods. The Yoruba take pride in this multiplicity of gods and deities. Now, concerning leisure, arts, and culture, pottery making and sculpture became the basis for the socioeconomic life of Ile Ife. Between 700 and 800 AD, Ile Ife began to develop into a major artistic center. But by the 12th century, several artists emerged to engage in creating bronze, stone, and terracotta sculptures. The artists were specializing in clay, ceramic, stone, terracotta, heads, copper. They were also using copper alloy, bronze to make bronze ornaments. The heads of rulers and deities were also sculpted in bronze. Art discovered in the kingdom of Ife so far includes terracotta and bronze heads and busts, stone sculptures, stools, and religious pieces carved in quartz, and monumental granite monoliths. An example is the Okpa Oromiyan or Oromiyan staff, which is so tall because Oroyan was supposed to be a giant. We'll learn more about Oroyan when we're talking about Oyo Empire as well as the Benin Empire. There are also other statues of humans and animals that have been found. Although the early period witnessed how Ile Ife developed as a world-class artistic center, the artistic production began to depreciate around the 1500s due to the later emergence of other kingdoms and empires. The Oyo Empire and the Benin Empire became politically powerful and wealthy. Hence, displacing the monopoly of power enjoyed by Ile Ife for a long time. Recently, there has been contestations regarding the relationship between the Oyo Empire and Benin Kingdom. And the AFC rider, argues that the dynasty which rules Benin is related by current tradition to the Yoruba complex of a kingship through a common ancestor, Oduduwa, the founder of Ife, like I said earlier on. While another account argues that Oronyo, who was the last born of Oduduwa, later founded Oyo and became the first Alaafin, and one of his children, Eweka the First, became the first Oba of Benin. But we'll learn more about this when we're talking about these two empires. We will look closer into these relationships in subsequent episodes. Please give us a thumbs up and spread the word about us with your contacts. See you next time.